What's up, people? This is Travel to Me, and I am in Miami with my friend, my one and only Manuel Germain. And usually when you see videos that I'm producing, you see me with people that I recently get to know. But in this case, we know each other for a very long time.
Yes, sir.
Yes, grew up in Austria together, in Linz, in our hometown, in our home city. And Manuel, you are one close friend of mine, and the distance came between us, and you traveled firstly to the US. And maybe let's start with one first thing, which I think would be very interesting for the viewers. How we like bonded in Austria, and what was like our main bond there.
Yeah, so I think that was when we were 15, 16. We were both very much into hip hop culture.
I remember that. Yeah.
And back home in Austria, there were only few clubs that actually played rap and hip hop at the time. So it was a small community of people, that were listening to like the same music, and weekend after weekend we went to the same clubs, and then friendship developed, and everyone kind of knew each other.
Yeah.
And then I think like we bonded in particular, like we were just like, hey Tommy, hey Manuel, and then we got along really well and started writing raps together. So yeah, I think that was the beginning, right?
Yeah, that's a nice introduction of us. Yeah, exactly. I think we started like writing raps together. There is also one picture I will show you in the video later, where we are standing in your room, I guess, with the Tupac poster and Allen Iverson. Yeah, you was a big, or you still are a big basketball fan, and you also played a lot, and you still do it. And maybe for everyone to know where we are right now, we are in Miami Beach. It's not Los Angeles, because Manuel went to Los Angeles to live there, but we are in Miami because we just said, hey, we are friends, let's hang out, let's spend more time together. It's a nice occasion. And so fortunately Manuel is also can work remote, so he just decided to come with me to Miami. And yeah, maybe let's get into the interesting topics, because there are so many to talk about. One topic in particular which is of interest for me is that when for me it was the first time to come to the US, and it was like very overwhelming to me. I saw so many nice things. I met beautiful people. I was in New York. I was in Washington and Los Angeles, in your hometown now. And what I always noticed was that there are so many people from different cultures, right? You can find like people from everywhere. And my question for you would be, do you have the feeling that people here live together? Like, is there a mix of cultures, or are they living like separate from each other and doing their own business? What do you think as a local?
That's a good question. So there are, in America, let me talk about LA.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of different communities. For example, you have Koreatown, you have Little Cambodia, you have Chinatown,
mm-hmm.
you have districts where there are predominantly black people. Then you have like your Hispanic districts. So it's very much like on the map. You have certain areas where you will find more people of a certain background than others.
Culture. Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, like in the main areas, you will still find a good mix of people, and people
mm-hmm. interacting
with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see a lot of like young couples too, that are they're interracial couples.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I think LA also, and like coastal cities are the more progressive towns, I think.
Yes.
And then you have different sentiments, like more in the middle of the country, where it's very secluded, and you have different racist like motivations still, and like
So there
But
is.
yeah, I think it's basically, it depends on the city too. Like, you know, in the
Yeah.
South you have a lot of segregation still, and then in
Yeah,
cities like Los Angeles, New York, Miami,
Yeah.
you will have people mixing up more.
Mhm.
One other thing I want to say is
Yeah.
that in the States it is possible to maintain or stay true to your culture. For example, you know, like Hispanics are usually like very proud, you know, of their heritage, of their language, you know, and they still speak Spanish at home. But at the same time, you know, they went to school here.
They're
They
US
are
citizens.
They are American,
Yeah.
you know, like they speak
Yeah.
English,
Yeah.
just like anyone else,
Anyone
you know.
else, right?
And so they are proud Latinos, but they're at the same time they're Americans, which I feel like in Europe it's a little different because integration sometimes feels like you have to just
Oh, that's a
forget
good
where
point.
you're, you know, like you're from, and you have
Yeah.
to be like just like German or French, you know.
Yeah.
And if you're like speaking your language or, you know, just associating with the people in your community, then you're not very integrated, you know. So
Yeah, let me
yeah.
explain also my experience in that, because I think what is also interesting for both of us is that we maybe encounter different types of like maybe racism also. And yeah, as you said, I completely can go with that what you said, because in Austria, for example, you know it yourself, it's like very, you have to almost assimilate yourself. You have to be like, even like have maybe if your name is maybe, I'm just saying something, Ali, you have to change your name to a
Thomas.
German name, or Thomas. And that's very interesting, because it's like here it's like very different. You can be whoever you want to be, and you just do your stuff, and it's very nice. And I think oh, your friend is here.
Yeah.
Maybe we can show the people some of his paintings while we are walking, because this is like the nice thing of doing a travel blog. You can have like a spontaneous interaction. Hello, my friend. How are you? Can I show your paintings to my viewers? Is it okay for you? Because it's very beautiful. Look at this. It's all hand painted. How long do you need for like having hand paint for like long time, like more couple of days?
Yeah, couple days.
Look at this. It's beautiful.
I haven't seen this one.
This one looks very nice. Yeah.
The Miami Beach one.
So if you want to have nice art, check out my man. Thank you so much. Bye bye. All right, so let's go back to our main talk. In Austria, it's like very assimilation. You do like a lot of assimilation, and still there is like big problems in the society. People are hating on each other, or they're like getting racist or whatever. And that was also, if I remember correctly, when we talked about it, like when we had our time together and we have some deep talk, you always told me that sometimes you think that you want to when you was like in your teenage years, hey, I just want to break out of this Austrian society, I just want to go somewhere else, and your dream always was the US. Can you maybe explain a bit what was the key for you to get out of Austria, and what was your first impressions of the US back then?
Yeah, so I think I have to explain a little bit about my background.
Yeah.
So I am actually Austrian, like born and raised in Austria.
Yeah.
I always spoke German at home.
Yes.
So I don't really know any culture from my parents or from my background, like other than the Austrian German culture.
The Austrian German one, yeah.
But then, you know, my dad is from Africa, so obviously I look very different than the
Côte
people.
d'Ivoire,
Yeah,
right?
Côte d'Ivoire, yes,
Yeah.
French, previous French colony.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so essentially I was always perceived as a foreigner, even though I was a very Austrian boy, basically, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is just like coming up. It was, and then when I was, my confidence was not very strong. Like I want to say from maybe in elementary school, from
Yeah,
like 6
yeah.
to 9, 10. And then when I first like got introduced to basketball, the NBA, and also hip hop music, I started like I saw a lot of people that looked like me, and you know they were really cool, and everyone was looking up to them and cheering them on the basketball court or
Yeah.
like in the rap videos. You know, it
Yeah,
was just
yeah.
like, so I felt very very drawn to that culture, and that culture basically at the time exclusively came from the US.
Exactly.
So and then also my dad wasn't really, I mean, I met him a few times like in my life, but he wasn't really like an influence. So that's why I think that's part of why I was never really I never really felt like I want to explore more of like the Ivorian, the Ivory Coast culture and stuff like that.
I see.
And then I just had the visuals from the TV, you know, like basketball, hip hop, and then that was my That's what I identified with basically at the time. So I was striving to be like, what I was seeing, like the visuals on that I was seeing on TV, or in the magazines. And with that came the English language, and then just again, basketball, the music culture. And then when I was 21, 22, and I finished my schooling, and also the basic military service in Austria. I just bought a plane ticket. I asked one or two friends of mine if they wanted to come. They were busy at the time, which I didn't mind at all, because I didn't want to speak German when I get there. I wanted to really be immersed in the culture.
Immersed in the culture, right.
And it all started as a vacation for me. And my plan was to be here about like a month or two, depending on how it would go. And then I met someone. I met a girl, and
then everything got like developed.
Everything
and now
just
you're
fell
here.
into my lap. Really, it was a magical time at the time, and I met a lot of people too, like that were U.S. citizens that wanted to move to LA, but they had a hard time with making things happen. And for me, it wasn't even my initial plan to like move to LA. Things just happened back to back, and then I had a decision to make, and I was like, should I go for it or not? And then I just went for it.
And you know what you told me when we met? You said that it's interesting also maybe for the viewers in the differences in opportunities, because in my opinion, like the classical way of an Austrian is that you go to school and then you go to work, or you do what I do. I go, for example, I went to the university and then I went to work. But your way was very nice, because you started from the scratch. You did like different things. You tried different things out, and the one story touched me, which you said to me when we was talking, was the story with you was working in I think on Hollywood Boulevard, right, or in a clothing store, and then you met one person, and that person told you that, hey, there is a job in the gaming industry, right, or something similar to the gaming industry, and then you just said, hey, you know what, I will apply for that. And you had this talk with the bosses, and they told you, hey, we give you a chance. Maybe can you explain a bit more how that happened, because I think that's very interesting, and that's a nice distinguish between the US and Europe, especially Austria, where everything is like based on the CV, and how many years of like work did you do, and how many years of study did you do?
I mean, education is definitely important, but I think in my case I got very lucky too, because there was a job that someone referred to me, someone that I met in my store at the time, and then I applied, and they needed a German native speaker, and then they just called me to come in for an interview, and of course I had to do a test, and it was a very extensive test. It wasn't just like that they were like, oh, here, we're gonna give you a chance. It was a very extensive. I had to write like an essay. I don't it was like 12 years ago. I don't remember what the topic was, but it was like 500 words in English, 500 words in German, then a vocabulary test as well, and then some questions at the end about like grammar and stuff like that. So it was a very like deep test, right? So I guess like, the difference is that here I got the opportunity to take the test without having the background in linguistics or in and it was quality assurance. The first job was linguistic quality assurance. So that essentially means, you're in the game specific to the gaming industry. You're playing the build version of the game, and you're verifying that the language is correct and contextually, no typos, no grammar mistakes and stuff like that. So yeah, I didn't have any experience in that, but based on, you know, because my native language was German and they needed a German native speaker, they called me in for the test and then, yeah, hired me based on the results of the test. And then that way I got into the industry, and then once I had that on my resume, it was easier for me to get into the next gaming job, and then from there into the next gaming job.
And you climbed from one to the other, right?
From
And
the other.
now you are a team lead.
Yeah, I'm the
language.
German language lead now for Blizzard, which is one of the
Famous company.
one of the most successful gaming companies and contemporary gaming companies.
Yeah, and that's insane. You wanted to add something more, or?
Yeah, I think I already said so. Like, you know, you do have. Sometimes it feels like I don't think that I would have gone this route had I stayed in Austria or in Europe.
Yeah.
And yes, it is more. People, even if you want to do simple jobs, you need to some kind of a paper that says you did a course or you went to school for that, even if it's something that you don't, you know, you can just like learn on the job, for example. And you know, so in my case I got a chance, and I went for it. I did my thing, you know. And so America is, in that regard, has more opportunities, I think.
Exactly. I had also the feeling also that I mean, I'm not so long here. I'm just here like for some weeks, but I have also the feeling that it's very. It has more opportunities. It's very diverse. At the same time, it's very harsh too, of course, because it's not like in Europe or in Austria where you can have like maybe a good work-life balance. The most people I met, they work a lot and they are busy all the time. They don't have so much time like for free. Or they need to be like paying their bills because the rents are very high and everything. So I don't want to make an advertisement video for the US, but I think that we can figure out what is good and what is bad, right? So
yeah, I mean, I think life in general is a little bit more expensive here, especially like in places like LA, Miami, New York. But then, in certain industries, you have the potential to earn a little bit more. But then at the same time, you have people that don't earn a lot at all, you know. And life is still very expensive here.
Life is still very
for
expensive.
them as well, you know. And they're not.
I could compare the prices here to Switzerland for me as an Austrian, or to Luxembourg, Liechtenstein, to little places where it's very expensive to live, right?
And then generally people, I think in Austria it's still like 5 weeks vacation times for essentially across all the industries, right?
Yeah.
Here it's only certain industries, so like, you know, now I have like 4.5 weeks vacation now, which is good.
Yeah.
But if you're working in sectors like retail or anything that's like on the service end, it is probably going to be a lot less. And Americans work all the time.
They're busy all the time,
jobs.
Right? Yeah.
And I think it's definitely more ingrained in European culture to like in the summertime take off. Like it's almost like mandatory to take off like 2-3 weeks, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
If you're not taking off 2-3 weeks, people are going to look at you like, like what's wrong with you? You know?
Or I mean, you know what, we met a lot of people here together, and when you was introducing me to them, it was like, hey, this is my friend. He's like doing a road trip. I was like, what, really? How is that possible? Because it's a hard working life here, and you have to pay your bills. And of course, I'm very privileged to do that. I'm really sure of that, and I'm very humble about that. But of course, it's I think the opportunity to do that would not be so possible in the US as it would be maybe in Europe. And that's brings me to my next question, which I think is also very interesting. Today we have a lot of interesting questions, and I think this one is most interesting because now I think you're about 20 years here, right? Something like that?
16.
Okay, almost. So 16, 4 to go.
It's all a blur at this time, you know. It's been a very long time,
It's a very long time. And what do you think now? Would you return, for example, to the country, to Austria, where your mother lives, or do you think that you are so used to this? I mean, you get used to it like very easily. I'm getting used to it after like a month. So how do you feel about that? Would you like return to Austria? Would you say, hey man, I'm gonna skip that because we have a wonderful dry summer in LA. It's not humid, it's beautiful, people are nice. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about this topic quite extensively, like throughout
Yeah.
my time here,
Hmm.
and it is. I think you said something very important. You know, my mother is there. You know, and my
Yeah.
mother is still, yeah, probably
It's a
like
big
the
part of your life.
most important person in my
Yeah.
life. You know, and
Sure. Yeah.
she's done everything for me. You know, like in even with a partner, with a woman. You know, like that bond can never be as strong.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so yeah, family is very important, and as she ages, you know, like I want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
spend more time with her and be there for her when she needs me. And I'm very grateful to work from home now, and my company also lets me go overseas for longer periods of time, so I can spend like a month with her, a month and a half with her.
Yeah.
So in a way, right now, I feel like I don't have to make a decision where I'm like, oh, I have to live here or there, because I'm almost doing it's in a hybrid kind of a model right now, where I'm spending like 3/4 of my time here and then 1/4 of my time there. But
Yeah.
yeah, in the long run, I do. As I get older, you know, I do realize that Austria is a very solid country and has a lot of. The social system is very good. Anyone has health insurance.
Yeah.
In America, it's
Yeah.
very based on like your job. If you have a good job, then you will have good health insurance. If you don't have a good job, you don't have health insurance and stuff like that. Like also having kids, you know, is probably not probably, it's definitely a lot more expensive here. Things like
Then
that.
over there, yeah.
So as you get older, there are certain things that would probably speak for moving back to Austria. Also, it's like, you know, it is my country, where I'm from.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, yeah, like you said, I'm very used to the way of life here now, and the diversity also, like, you know, seeing
Yeah.
it still feels good. That was very important for me during my
Yeah,
20s,
I completely
and it's
see
still
that.
important for me to see people that look like me, that speak like me, that are also doing well in life. There is still a disproportionate amount of people of color that you will probably see on the street that are not doing so well. So that is something that's also there. But yeah, I mean, America, it's like, you know, we grew up with this culture with basketball, hip hop, and it's like I can after work I can turn on the TV and I can watch a Laker game, for example, you know, or
Yeah.
anywhere I go, you will hear music that is has some
Familiar
kind of
to you and
hip hop influence
Yeah.
or soul, some kind of a, you know, like maybe a black culture influence, you know, which which over there is still
it's
rare,
in a very
rarer,
like
you
a
know?
minority kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and not everyone is keen on that. And also what I observed as a traveler in that case is that here you find like everything you need. Like you can buy the most rarest baseball caps, and you can go to the best concerts of any kind of music.
But then again, you know, sorry to cut you off, but then again, like as you get older, those things are probably gonna be less important.
Less important,
so
right? Yeah.
you might want a quieter life, and then, but then again, like you said, you know, the weather in LA is just amazing. I think it's one of the best climates in the world.
It's the first unique selling proposition, I would say, right? People move there for the weather.
For the weather, so that is very hard to beat.
Yeah.
But to be quite honest with you, I'm not entirely sure yet if I'm going to always be here, or if
sure.
at some point I'm going to move back.
I mean, you
right
had your
now I'm
best-
very privileged to be able to like work from anywhere, essentially, you know. So yeah.
You work remote, and you're very privileged to do that. And you had, as I may say, that you had your best years in here. You started with your 20s, so it was the perfect time to move somewhere else, right?
Yeah, no, it is. It was a good time for me. Like 22, I came here when I was 22. So I've spent most of my adult life in the States now. I mean, I spent my first 22 in Austria, and then I'm 39.
Yeah,
you know, time flies, right?
Time flies very quickly.
A few less years in the States than in Austria, but it's almost 50-50 at this point.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I think that what we can take out of this conversation is that there are so many things to consider when you're like moving somewhere else, or you're relocating yourself, or also even when you're traveling to some other place. Yeah, It's a great time to have this talk, and we walked quite a bit. Right now we are near the Muscle Beach. It's over there. I can show you. I wish you all a nice winter time, a nice Christmas time, and looking forward to the next video. We say goodbye to you.
Servus!
Viert euch!